This is my 2006 Dodge Mega Cab 1-ton with the 5.9 Cummins turbo diesel. It is actually a really sharp looking truck when it's all put together. And really good shape, body and exterior wise. But when I bought it, I thought it needed injectors. And turns out it needed an engine overhaul or a new engine because it had the number one cylinder was dead in it. And I had a couple of places quote me. One quoted me, the Dodge dealer quoted me 22,000 to just swap out a straight, rebuilt motor, stock, nothing fancy, same basic motor. And then I had another place quote me 24,000, and that got me a bunch of upgrades, which would have been nice, but I also don't want to put $22,000 into a truck that's worth about $22,000. If you look at an ADA or Blue Book, it varies on there. But anyways, so I decided to do a lot of it myself, like pull it out. I used to work at an implement dealer for about 8 years. That's not the same as automotive diesel, but I got fairly familiar with diesels. And yeah, it doesn't really scare me to tackle stuff like this, but yeah, it was a frustrating thing once I actually got into it because I disconnected everything. I took my turbo and my exhaust manifold off, and I was getting ready to pull it out, and I literally could not get it to come out of that hole the way pretty much all the videos on YouTube say how to do it. And I bought a Haynes manual, and it was very unhelpful because it told you to pull the top cross member off. Didn't say anything about pulling the bottom cross member off. And it says just pull it up at the front of the engine at an angle to get it out. Well, if you try to pull it out from the front of the engine, your oil pan hits down here on this lower cross member. Your engine also hits on the front of this, or your rocker arms on your head, or your valve cover if you leave that on, hits there. You can see where I tore up all the insulation there, and it was just frustrating. You watch the YouTube videos, and they talk about cutting this cross member or making cuts here and bending this out, and I did not want to structurally damage the cross member because it's a 1,200 pound engine, and hopefully when I'm done it'll be around 600 horse. I'm not interested in cutting anything that gives me any kind of stability in there. And there was one video on YouTube that talked about they called it the 16-hour amazing 5.9 Cummins swap. And so I watched that thing, and at the beginning of the video, it's a regular video, and the guy's talking about and I mean, he's a good guy. I'm not trying to bag on him, but he talks about that same thing. All the stuff he heard is you have to cut out that cross member. Well, he wasn't interested in doing that, just like me. He didn't want to structurally damage it. Well, they go to a time-lapse video of him doing it, which is good, and it was helpful to me in a couple of spots. But when it comes time to actually get the engine out, you see him struggling to make it clear out of there. And so he fades out, and all of a sudden when he fades back in, the cross member's not there anymore. And he doesn't show you how he gets it out. And then when he goes to put it back in, he gets the engine in, gets it bolted to the motor mounts. And then he's about to put the fan and all that stuff back on, and he fades out. And when he fades back, there's like a brand new looking cross member in there, or at least it looks different. Because the old one was black and may have just been oil saturated, I don't know. And the new one is red. And you're just like, how did you get that out? Where did that come from? Anyways, I just found it frustrating. And yeah, I had it up on the cherry picker for about 6 hours trying to figure out how to get it out. I mean, I jacked the back of my truck up 24 inches off the ground just to try and give myself the right angle. I was grabbing from like right at the front of the engine to about mid-range. I could not get it to clear those 3 points. And my neighbor, who is a mechanic at a Chevy dealer, he's like, well, it looks like you're going to have to pull the oil pan off. And yeah, I should have thought of that before I got it up on the cherry picker and off the motor mounts. So I was like, well, okay, that's what I got to do. So I go to start pulling the oil pan and the sump off of the oil pump, but I was hanging on there, and I just needed to set it down to get a better grip so I could actually get to all those bolts, because yeah, it wasn't really safe the way it was. So by accident, when I was trying to do that, I grabbed it from the back of the engine, right back here, because this is the back of the engine. This is an automatic, and I should mention now, I don't know if this would work on manuals, but it worked on my automatic, because yeah, it doesn't have it's just different, obviously, the back of the engine. I had this hooked through here, and everything on every video tells you to grab from the front, kind of up here. I couldn't get that out, so I actually ended up grabbing from the back of the engine just so I could move to get to all the oil pan gaskets. But when I did that, all of a sudden, I saw, well, hey, I'm just about clearing both the cab right there, and the oil pan was clearing that lower cross member. And the only thing that was causing problem was up here, was I was just barely not able to clear the front cross member. So what I ended up doing is taking an air gun and taking off my harmonic balancer off the front of the engine. When I did that, that gave me enough clearance, and I pulled it out, no problem. It was actually pretty simple. If I'd have done that in the first place, I probably had it out in 45 minutes instead of what ended up being like 8 hours in the end. And the other thing that I wanted to say is, all my book and all that stuff tells you to drain your Freon, or have somebody take your Freon out and take your condenser off, and take your transmission cooler line off. And I could see where that would be less of a hassle, I guess, but I wasn't interested in opening up the system. So what I basically did is I just unhooked the condenser, wired it up out of the way. I had wires up to the ceiling there, and just wired it out of the way, and I didn't have a single problem with it being in the way. Probably because I had the turbo and the exhaust manifold off as well. But yeah, I made this video. It's the only one I've ever made. I'll probably not make another one. As you can tell, I'm probably not very good at it. But I made it because I'm frustrated at how hard it was, and there was literally nothing on there, nothing on YouTube, and nothing in my book telling me to grab it from the back of the engine. And once I did that, it was just really easy. So I hope somebody finds this helpful. Sorry I run on a lot. I tend to do that. Probably won't make another video when I put it back in, because I just don't care that much. It was frustrating to get it out. I'll probably put it back in the same way I took it out. And yeah, hopefully this is helpful to someone. So yeah, hopefully you find it helpful. Thanks.